Okay, so today is February 20th. We are now adjourned or starting the special board meeting in Central Valley School District at 8:45. So do we have anybody on Zoom that wants to give public comment?
And just so everyone understands that we have about 8 attendees. And if you do want to make public comment, at the bottom of the Zoom screen, there's a raise hand button, and our tech team is going to work hard to unmute you. You will not be visible, but we will, I believe if I'm understand correctly, we can hear your voice. So, Pam, just so you know, on the attendees button, I don't see anybody raising their hand at this time.
Okay, well, we'll proceed because we're short on time, and if somebody does raise their hand, if the tech team could let us know so we can pause to then let them speak. And all board members are in attendance. This is a meeting by Zoom. So today we are meeting solely for the purpose of discussing a resolution opposing ESB 5462 and HB 2331. So we have all received both bills. We've all had time to dig into these bills, and we have all received the proposed resolution and 2 proposed letters to attach to the resolution. So our goal today is obviously to discuss these and come to whether yes or no to an agreement if we want to have a resolution and a letter, and if so, yes, what do we want that to look like? And the urgency here is because the committee is meeting today in the legislature at 4 o'clock today. So if we do come to an agreement on this, the urgency is so that we could get this to the committee before that hearing at 4 o'clock is my understanding. So I will just open this up for discussion.
I see that Terry wants to speak, and I also see that Stephanie wants to speak as well.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm not seeing any hands raised. So John, if you're seeing those, that's fabulous. You can let me know.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so Director Landa.
Can you hear me? Okay. I drafted the second letter after reading the bills carefully and then listening to the testimony in both the House and the Senate Education Committees, trying to listen to both sides of this. I came back to think about last board meeting. One of our parents, I think his name was Stephen Taylor, he voiced his support of this bill, both these bills, I think. And I listened to both sides of this as people were testifying to the committees. And I think there are some very good things in both of these bills, but not good enough to pass the bill. I think we have many students and the people who testified for the bill that are really hoping that some relief will come to them where they are seen and heard as an underrepresented student or person. And I think that's what we want in our district. We would not say that's a bad idea. But in my letter, I voiced that we have systems in place in Central Valley, and we have our strategic plan. We have all the work that led up to our strategic plan, and we have our goals of wanting our kids to feel like they belong. We have what we need. We don't need oversight. We don't need more legislation. What I objected to in one of the letters was kind of a a threatening tone that I talked with Dr. Parker about. And I just think if some of the verbiage from my draft could be included with the original draft, we could come up with a letter that I could support. As the first draft came out, I couldn't support it. It just sounded too threatening. And the idea that this is going to affect our test scores and our parents pulling out of the district and kind of a threatening tone. I didn't agree with that. I don't think we have failing test scores. We're several percentage points ahead of the state, all districts in our state, and all of our neighboring districts. We have students that we're not reaching, and we have systems in place to reach them. That's my opinion.
So Director Land, I so appreciate all the work that you did in listening to the committees and the testimonies and researching these. Sorry, can you point out like a paragraph? I just want to know exactly where in the first draft that you're saying that you are believing is threatening, just so I can make sure that I note that.
Sure. Let me look here real quick.
Terry, I also have got it up on the screen right now, if that would help.
Okay. Can you help me find what I have referenced, John? This was one of the things I didn't go along with, about the middle of the first paragraph where he said we cannot afford to send a message to our community that we need their dollars but not their opinions. I thought that was very insulting. We do listen to our patrons, and this is more of a issue of oversight and demands from our legislature. It's not, to me, I didn't like that part, but more the part that I read that said, with low test scores, our patrons are going to be leaving our district. If anybody can help me find that.
I think, is it right above it, Terry? It says legislation affecting education and dissatisfaction with student proficiency rates. Was that it?
Yes.
And perhaps this just needs rephrased. I believe, and Dr. Parker, correct me, what we were saying that sends a message to our community, we weren't saying we send that message. We're saying that these bills take away, it's back to the local control issue, that we want your tax dollars, but we're not even able to talk away. We can't do anything about it. And so I totally see what you're saying, how it could be read the other way. That we're saying that, but that's definitely not what we're trying to say, is that we're not listening to their opinions. We definitely want we're very, very community driven. That's our concern with this. So.
Okay, Director Orbaugh, President Orbaugh, right in the middle of the first paragraph, at a time when school districts are grappling with continued legislative action affecting education and dissatisfaction with student proficiency rates, we cannot afford another mandate that drives community members away from our public education system. I think the local control is our issue, but I don't carry that as far as driving people away from our school district and our focus on proficiency rates. Of course, we're concerned with that, but it just sounded to me, it sounded threatening. I'd like it to have a different tone.
So I do believe, and I'm not sure exactly on the proficiency. I know some people are concerned about proficiency rates, but I also know that we have been working hard as a district since COVID to bring students back to our public school system that left during COVID. So I know that there are parents, and and I hear it. I don't know who else hears it, but I know I hear it from parents who are kind of teetering. They're on that fence of can I trust the district with my child? And if the state continues to put mandates that they don't agree with, they're going to pull their kids. So how do we rephrase that statement, Terry? I think that's what we're trying to say is you're making another mandate our community may not like, and we're going to lose further kids.
Director Orban, my response would be, we have students in our system, every district does, that are leaving our schools because their needs are not being met. They have mental health issues. They're struggling academically. That's a fact. And they're leaving because they don't feel like they belong or they have a place. Their voice is not being heard. This bill is trying to get that in there, that we need to help the student that has a Japanese Hispanic background that doesn't see herself represented in instructional materials like the testimony said, or the student from Vietnam with Vietnamese American heritage that felt invisible in the classroom. There's good things there. We want the same things for our students, but legislation and oversight is not the way to do it that this bill is pushing.
Director, President
Director,
Orban,
yes.
can I just jump in here, because I want to make sure that we're utilizing and maximizing our time. The first thing I just wanted to do is, the purpose of today's meeting is a resolution. And based on the fact that we floated and had this resolution out to our director, all 5 directors, and I did not hear anything about the resolution that's the second page of this, I am making an assumption that the resolution language is solid with our board members. And maybe what we might want to do is ensure that the resolution itself is sound, and then maybe move to the letter. It's just a suggestion, but I think we could spend a considerable amount of time trying to wordsmith to make sure it's reflective of the opinions of all 5 board members, when in fact the resolution itself is also the key part of this. And I think our end game here, I would just propose that right now for your consideration, President Orban.
I appreciate that, and I agree. Before we move to that, I just want to, Director McMullen has had her hand raised for a while.
I would defer
And Stephanie did
I
too.
would
Oh,
defer to
Stephanie did too,
Director
okay.
Brady, who was in long before me.
Oh, sorry. I can only see Cindy's hand raised. Okay. Director Jordan.
I apologize. I didn't use the digital arm. I used my physical one. My mistake. Kindergarten. I just wanted to say I loved elements of both letters. What I appreciated about the first one was the citation of RCWs in explaining director of responsibilities within the law, the authority that we have specific to procedures and adopting curriculum, to remind them of those things that are already in place.
Mm-hmm.
And then about the second letter, and this was something that I found to be true when I actually went to the Day on the Hill and spoke with some of our representatives, is that though well-intentioned, sometimes they just don't truly understand the application in the district of some of these legislative bills. And so I appreciated the explanation of what we're already doing, how we're already implementing the law as it stands, what strides we're making as far as our instructional materials committee, the strategic plan, input from parents, from students, which are all elements of some of these bills. So we're kind of saying, look, these are the things we're already doing. We're already implementing the law as it is. And then if there's a way to marry the two so that we can do both, I think that would be valuable.
Okay, Director McMullen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Director Jordan. I do think the most important part of this is the resolution itself. It does specifically reference in the very first whereas the RCW that is referenced in the letter that sets forth the responsibilities of a school board, including with regard to curriculum. And if we needed to enhance that whereas beyond saying local control, that it gives the locally elected school board the responsibility of adopting curriculum for the school district. I think we could do that. The thing that I like about having our own letter is that it is our own letter. The first draft is very similar to that other school districts are looking at. And one of the things that I have noted in the past is that when legislators get what looks almost like a form letter, they have a tendency to not give it as much credence, not quite pitch it, but it does not have the same impact that a letter that is more specific to, for example, our district. And I think the second letter, as Director Jordan said, sets forth what we in Central Valley have historically done and what our commitment is, which is that we will include our community. We have always had a parent, at least one, on our curriculum adoption committees. We listen to the experts in the field. We look at best practices and research. And we're very intentional about the curriculum process to get the best curriculum for our students. And like Director Landa said, if a student can see themselves in the curriculum, understands that they are part of the lesson. I know I wasn't at the last meeting, but I'm aware that the speaker at comment talked about how when the teacher asked for his viewpoint of a particular curriculum, how much more that lesson meant to him. And I think that's what we're all committed to, is a way for our students to connect with curriculum so that the learning is personal and so that it lasts. And it's not just memorize the spelling words for Friday and then never remember or use them again. For me, what was very important to include in the resolution are the whereases that deal with our strategic plan, which our community really put together and that we approved. And that part, that direction number one, in the strategic plan about focusing on that culture of belonging and equitable opportunities. And that's really what the intention part of both of these bills goes to. But I am very concerned, especially on 5462, of the imposition of an outside agency on our curriculum adoption process, and not just ours, any in the state. The purpose of the ESDs, as I understand it, is to be helpful, to provide services, especially in small districts that can't afford or don't have staff to do certain things. And the statute specifically says that the ESD will do those things at the written request of the school board for that district. And this particular, at 5462, completely overlooks that. It imposes someone from the ESD into the curriculum process in all kinds of ways, not just the IMC, but and really is well outside of the correct process in my mind of how to adopt a curriculum. I appreciate that Director Landa has gone through all of the testimony and has encapsulated responses to much of that in the letter that she drafted. Like Dr. Parker, I think maybe the best way to do this would be to start by a motion with regard to the resolution itself. If we can't agree on which of the two letters or how to meld the two letters, after that, maybe we can give our thoughts and to President Orbaugh and Superintendent Parker, and they can draft something as a cover letter. But the one thing I want to make very clear personally, and I believe it's on behalf of the whole board, I have been contacted by folks who have seen the resolution. I want to make it clear that I am against these bills because of the bureaucracy and the outside interference of agencies that should not be responsible for these decisions. I most certainly support inclusion, making sure that our students see themselves in their classroom every day, in their curriculum, in their library books, that we teach our children about the world around us, and that we follow the process that we already have in place, which includes our parents and our community. That is not what my objection to these two bills is at all. It is, again, the bureaucracy and the incursion, quite frankly, into the responsibilities of a locally elected school board, which is directly responsible to the community.
Thank you, Director McMillan. I agree. I think that is all of our concerns is the local control that they are infringing upon our responsibilities, but also the cost to ensure that we meet this. So I think we're all on board that those are the concerns, not the intent of the bill, which, because as we demonstrate, Central Valley is already doing a lot of, if not all of this, as we are able, with our community input. So I don't want to speak for the entire board, but from what I have heard, I believe that we all are in agreement of what we are not liking about this bill. Dr. Parker.
Thank you, President Orbaugh. I'm just was wondering, first of all, I feel like it's important for me to thank Director Barker for raising some of the concerns and doing the work that she has been doing on the legislative priority front and bringing this to our attention. I want to make sure that I guess even on behalf of my position, I want to thank her for bringing the concerns forward and getting this whole discussion started. And I don't want to forget that piece. The second thing, in the sake of time, I was wondering if we could agree in part to the resolution and then agree in part to the melding of letters, which I'm hearing so far from board members. We could make something like that work between President Orbaugh and myself. I would be more than happy to help draft some items, keep the language of the resolution if need be, and get the cover letter drafted in a way that is workable for all of our board members. I would be more than happy to do that, President Orbaugh, from my position as superintendent.
I appreciate that idea, and I think for the sake of time, we are going to have to definitely look at that and do something like that related to the letter. So we do not have an agenda in front of us to really look at the resolution, but my understanding is it's resolution 24-02. Is that correct?
That is correct.
May I speak, Director Orbaugh?
Yes.
I think Dr. Parker has a very good plan to, our ideas are out there. to meld the two things together. The resolution itself, I think the wording is fine with me, but when you got to after the resolution, there's more verbiage, several paragraphs more, kind of saying the same things, some of the same things that are in the cover letter. I would want to make sure that either that's abbreviated, the part I'm objecting to is similar to what I objected to in the cover letter, and it's a sentence that says the financial burden to meet these bills, if enacted into law, would be crippling, further taking away from needed resources our students require. That's all good. And would push more parents to withdraw their children from our district. Parents are withdrawing their children from this district for other reasons that I've stated before, because they are not seen because they're underrepresented. So I would like to remove that because it's on both perspectives of this bill. I would like to have that language taken out of there. But I do trust the two of you to rework this document, knowing that the board has given their input. Thank you.
So Director McMullen.
I would agree with Director Landa on just that one sentence. It may be that that's a reason for some parents, but there are lots of reasons why parents withdraw their children from any particular school district. And I think we have enough other reasons in the resolution to make it strong. That being the case, I would move for the approval of resolution 24-2 with the phrase in the first paragraph of the second page, and would push more parents to withdraw their children from our district, being deleted.
So the sentence would stay the same, just the last part of that sentence. So we could, because I do think they need to understand this would also be a heavy financial burden.
Oh, yes, no, it is only that last, my motion is only to eliminate the very end of that sentence. So the sentence would still read, the financial burden to meet these bills, if enacted into law, would be crippling, further taking away from needed resources our students require.
Director Barker, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, President Orbach. In this instance, I would agree that maybe that sentence is out of place. We're talking about our financial burden that would come with this, and it seems like we have that sentence inserted in between two financial statements. So we have the last statement talks about the resources and staff required. That should go next to the financial burden. Well, I do actually believe that people are pulling their kids from public school because of the constant social pressure of our legislature to, push political agendas. I do think that that sentence is in the wrong position in that paragraph. Where we want to put it, if we want to keep it, I don't have that answer yet. I'm still reading through it.
Madam Chair, we do have a motion on the floor, but it has not been seconded.
I second.
So it has been first and seconded to approve resolution 24-2, knowing that we would take away the second page, the first paragraph, the phrase, and would push more parents to withdraw their children from the district. Is there any further discussion? So hearing no further discussion, are we polling by voice, or is Kim able to poll us electronically?
I would just let you know, I'm not on board docs. I was
And I'm
lucky
not
to
either,
get
that's
to
true.
this meeting.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Raise your hand.
Aye.
I,
And I think there were all ayes, but I'll say anybody opposed, say nay. So hearing none opposing, it looks like it passes unanimously to approve resolution 24-02 with, again, on the second page, the first paragraph, removing the phrase "and would push more parents to withdraw their children from our district." And due to the sake of a lack of time, and I know that we have work and appointments coming up soon, that Dr. Parker and I will work together to meld these two cover letters I took a bunch of notes, I don't know if Dr. Parker did, to ensure that everyone's comments regarding their concerns or their likes with these letters are taken into account.
You're unmuted, Terry.
I needed to add, as far as the financial aspect, I don't think we've mentioned this, but I believe it's 2331 that asks that every ESD would have a person hired just to implement and to monitor and go to these district IMCs. The cost of that alone, I mean, it's going to be a cost to our district, but the cost when the legislature is wrestling with few dollars for many, many needs to put that kind of money, I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but I wanted to say that as an additional reason not to pass this bill. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Director Landa, I noticed that there was both at the ESD and at the school district, and I'm sorry, I was trying to find my notes in the bills. They were requiring, it would require extra staff for both of us to be able to meet these bills. On top of, I cannot imagine reviewing every last aspect of our curriculum and changing it. That would require, somewhere I have my notes, numerous people, honestly, just for our school district to ensure that we meet it. Even if we already are, just to go through that process and ensure we are, it just very, very time consuming, and again, more administrative staff to work on that. But yes, you're right, at the ESD level, even they were requiring more staff.
President Orbaugh.
Yes.
First of all, I just want, as superintendent, and we've been talking a lot over the last few days, even if via electronically or individual phone conversation, I just applaud the board in coming together and having this kind of a rich dialogue, especially centered around something concerning like this related to these two bills. I also wanted to let the board know that we have 2, 4, 6, 7 individuals that are also online with us right now that are also keenly probably aware and interested. And so I just wanted to make the board aware of that. And I think of next steps, President Orbaugh, if you don't mind, what we'll do is today, we will go back and forth reaching out with one another to make sure the resolution has been improved, the correct numeracy is put on there with 24-02. And also we will get out a third draft for the board to consider, but understanding that we will not be making changes to the resolution itself beyond what was already stated in our meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that we were clear while we're recording this meeting, those were our next steps.
Director McMullen.
Thank you. I just want to clarify what Dr. Parker said. Dr. Parker and President Orbaugh have worked very hard over the weekend to craft this document, and I'm sure that Director Barker was very actively involved as well, although I don't know personally, because the only contact I have had is with Dr. Parker. We have been very aware of the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. The board members have not been discussing this offline. Rather, Dr. Parker has shared with us written documentation, and asked for our individual feedback to him, so that he and President Orbaugh could work on a proposal for us to look at today. I know that these things can raise concerns in the community, especially when we have special meetings. And of course, this one happened on a holiday weekend on top of everything else. And so folks may wonder what's been going on. This was a matter of urgency because of the timing of the legislature. But I want to thank Dr. Parker and President Orbaugh for the process that we used that ensured that we followed all of the requirements, and beyond that, the spirit of the Open Public Meetings Act, and that this resolution came about primarily through their work, and then them sharing it with individual other board members for feedback to Dr. Parker.
Thank you, Director McMullen. I agree. We are very, very careful to ensure that we are transparent and our community is aware of what is going on, and we're not violating any laws. We're not doing anything behind the scenes, for sure. That's why it was so important to have this special meeting, and to give proper notice, even though, you know, the law says 24-hour notice. It might not seem like enough, but we adhere to the law on the notice for this meeting. So is there any further discussion before we adjourn this meeting?
President Orbaugh, as a result of spending my weekend to trying to learn as much as I can about these two policies, I would like to go on the record for requesting that as we do our policy reviews over the next year, that we move our policy and our administrative procedure 2020 and policy 2133, that we would move those policies that are related to curriculum adoption and our multicultural interest in keeping those things front center with our curriculum adoptions. I'd like us as a board to be reviewing those, since this has caused us to go into that. And one of them is 8 years since we reviewed. The other one is 18 years since we reviewed. I'm pretty sure WASDA has had some updates since then that we've missed, not through our own shortcoming. It's just a matter of staffing and timing, or maybe the updated date didn't get on there, but that would be my request, please.
Dr. Parker, that's something you can discuss with Mr. Rowell.
Absolutely. We can definitely look at that, especially in light of today's discussion.
Any further discussion before we adjourn? So seeing no hands raised, we'll adjourn the special meeting on February 20th for the Central Valley School Board at School District School Board of Directors at 9:23 a.m. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And Terry, please let us know if you need anything today. Have a good day, you guys.